Hey everybody! So today I wanted to make a video about building lasting habits, and I know that this topic is covered a lot of channels, but I don't think that it can be covered enough, since it's a thing that I always struggle with, and it's a thing that I think most of us struggle with. So I've been thinking about this idea for the last few weeks, since I went on Codecademy and found a course on iOS app development there. And they have this really sort of fun way of gamifying their learning experience by not setting daily targets, but by setting weekly targets. You start a streak by completing tasks 5 days in a row, for example, or 5 days in a week rather. And I found that this concept of substituting daily goals, because a lot of apps want us to do the thing daily. For example, Duolingo becomes sad if you don't complete a daily target and you don't have a streak freeze on. And I've always found that to be a sort of deterrent for progress. So instead, having these weekly targets really helped me with the course, which I completed quite fast. And it's helped me with the habit of learning new things in the world of computer science a lot. So that's where the sort of inspiration for this video comes from. And I really wanted to cover two things. So first, the power of substituting daily habits for weekly habits, or daily goals for weekly goals. And in addition, I want to talk about the power of incremental improvements. So let's first discuss the power of substituting daily habits for weekly ones, because this idea, although we reviewed it already a bit, I think it's really a powerful idea. So there's this idea of aiming lower to last longer. This is actually a poster at my local gym, which is where I got the part of the inspiration for this video as well. And this idea of aiming lower to last longer really resonated with me, because if you set the bar really high and you try to aim at your peak performance each and every day, for example, you want to set a goal of working out daily for 1 hour in the gym. I think if you have a sort of competitive sports background, that's a reasonable goal, but for most of us that's a goal that's way too hard to stick to. So you'll stick to that for like 2 weeks, and then you get tired of it, then you skip 1 day, and then it's a slippery slope to thinking that, okay, I missed 1 day, I ruined the whole habit, let's just not do this anymore. At least that's sort of how I think. So instead, opting for setting a weekly day target, so I want to do this 3 days a week, and then starting and aiming at sort of creating a weekly streak, I think that really works for me, and it helps me be more forgiving to myself with the habits that I'm building. So for example, if I want to go to the gym, right now my goal is to go to the gym 2 times a week, and I've tried to make that a weekly streak. So that's been helping a lot. And other thing that's sort of related to this is making the experience fun. So those few times a week that you do your habit, you really want to emphasize on making it fun and accessible. And the way that I do that, for example, with trying to rebuild my gym routine, is by working out for half an hour and then going to the sauna, which is really relaxing for me. So by making it enjoyable and by rewarding yourself in a healthy way after the fact, really helps you associate and helps your brain associate the habit with a positive experience, where the habit itself becomes a positive experience, and it helps you stick to that habit. So this sort of substitution is really powerful, and it's helped me a lot. The other item I want to discuss is the power of incremental improvements. And one book that's really popular about this topic is James Clear's Atomic Habits, which is probably a book that everybody who watches this kind of video has read, myself included. And I think the argument that James makes is really powerful. So the translation of that book into Finnish and then retranslated into English turns out to be break your habits into atoms, which is essentially the core thesis of the book, which is to get a big habit and then break it down into really small incremental improvements, and then aiming to be 1% better each day. And this was something like 36 times better over the year if you become 1% better every year. But I think that Dr. Jordan Peterson is in his book 12 More Rules for Life Beyond Order, which is the second book in the 12 Rules sort of mini-series. In that book, I think he has a really well thought out argument for incremental habits which resonated with me a lot more, because I tend to be I tend to have an adverse reaction on these sort of classic self-help books. I tend to err towards the more scientific side of literature. But I think that Jordan Peterson had a really good point about when you set goals and when you set sort of ideals for yourself, those ideals become a judge. So the ideals in your head are saying to you that, hey, you haven't achieved this yet, why is that? What might be in the background, etc. And this idea of an ideal being a judge is, I think, a really powerful idea, and it helps you understand the way that you talk to yourself a lot more. And Peterson pointed out that there are two ways to battle against the judgment of ideals. The first of which is to not have any ideals at all, which is obviously not a very optimal solution, since you end up not having any goals or anything to aim to at all. But the second way to battle against the judgment of ideals is by incremental improvements. And Peterson pointed out that repetitive incremental improvements are essentially unstoppable. If you're able to incrementally improve over a long period of time, that becomes a really powerful thing in your entire life. So by sort of circling back to the first point, and sort of mashing these two things up together, if you take the power of incremental improvement and you realize that you don't have to be perfect, you don't have to do every habit every day, so you set weekly targets instead of daily ones, and you understand fundamentally the power of incremental improvements, and then you try and make the habit fun by rewarding yourself with something healthy. I think that's a really good recipe for building lasting habits, and it's something that I'm trying to do in my life right now to help me build more lasting habits, because I'm not very good with the traditional sort of healthy habits. I'd rather sit at home and read a book or sit at my computer. So this is really a point where I'm struggling, so I hope these points have helped out some of you as well. Anyways, thanks for watching the video, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye bye.